Just look at the most popular cards in the game right now. Are you already bored of seeing Tachyon Dragon everywhere in ranked, in tournaments as well? Well, I've got perhaps the best solution to counter this deck, which is this card, this random N rarity card that we got not too long ago. Let's actually have a look at what box it's from. It's from Phoenix Blaze. It's literally from this year. It's Mischief of the Gnomes. It's a random N rarity card that happens to counter the deck entirely. If you go first and you have access to this card, they cannot play their turn basically for the entire turn. So what this card does is it reduces the levels of all monsters in each player's hand by 1, even after they are summoned or set. And also it also has the same effect if you banish this card from the graveyard. So what this basically does is that once you activate this card in the draw phase during your opponent's turn, they will not have a single level 8 monster in their hand. And that basically prevents them from using a lot of things. They can't use trade-in, they can't use any of the monsters to Xyz summon because they're all level 7. And also you can't search another level 8 using Safer because it needs to search a card that has the same level. Actually it can because it says total original levels, but never mind. Basically once you activate this card, the entire deck just crumbles. They just cannot play for a turn. I mean, they can still win, but it's gonna be a lot harder because they will have to heavily rely on the other back row that they open with. But if they don't open with single generic staple, you basically just win the game on the spot, which is pretty strong. So you don't actually have to draw this card to have access to this card. You can actually find a way to send it to the graveyard because it also has the graveyard effect that has the exact same effect. And one way to do it is with a Beatrice. So Beatrice can send any card, including spells and traps, during your turn and also your opponent's turn. So what you can do is during your opponent's draw phase, you can immediately send Mischief from the deck and then banish it from the graveyard immediately to use its effect. And one deck that could make Beatrice is Onomats. Onomats have a 1-card combo using Onomato Pickup or Onomato Para to search both Gaga Sister and Gaga Coat, and these two cards make a rank 6 on their own, and this could make Beatrice very easily, and Beatrice can send your combo pieces during your own turn, and during your opponent's turn you can either send Mischief of the Gnomes if you're facing against Tachyon, or if you're not, you can just always send Farfa instead, which means that your Beatrice will not be useless if your opponent is not playing Tachyon, because this card, while it's really good against Tachyon, it's not very good against a lot of other decks. So decks like Mayakashi don't really care about this card because they can still link summon even with their monsters' levels reduced. And also if they summon from the graveyard, those monsters have their own levels back instead. So if they summon their tuner from the graveyard again and again, its level will still be 2, and that will not be affected. So they can still synchro climb if they need to, and other decks like Constellus don't even care about the levels because they can just Xyz summon using monsters with any level. So yeah, this card is basically only good against Tachyon exclusively, but it's really good in decks that could send it to the graveyard, like Onomats or even Burning Abyss that could make Beatrice really easily. So if you happen to face against Tachyon, you have the choice to send this card from the deck to the graveyard, and if not, you can just send something else instead. Yep, I'm sure you saw the thumbnail and the title. Yes, I have played in a tournament using this deck, and I happened to face against Luke Tyler, of all people, in the very first match. And this guy happens to be playing Tachyon, so I guess let's see what our deck can do. You probably know Luke Tyler as, you know, a good Yu-Gi-Oh player. I know him as the guy who made Crystron's look competitive even when all of their cards are still in the ban list. Anyway, our opponent is going to do a usual Tachyon combo, which is unfortunate because this card basically only pretty much works going first because if you go second, they can still combo. But the good thing about Onomats, especially the version that I'm playing, is that they can play through some amount of disruption. But unfortunately, our opponent is going to put out more disruptions that we can handle. We have Lance, but Lance doesn't really work well against Tachyon specifically because you can't chain Lance in response to the counter trap. You can use it preemptively, but you can't chain it in response. So we do open with combos, so let's activate Para to grab the combo pieces. The best way to play around negates is to not grab Sister and instead grab Onomatopoeia. Tyler has Book of Moon. We have Lands, he can negate the lands and flip our monster face down. We can use Older Chaos and normal summon the V Summoner for free, but he has another monster to negate, and that will just barely be enough to stop our combo. If we just had another way to extend, we would have been able to continue to play. But yeah, that's the end of the first game, nothing special. Okay, this is the second game and we are going first, which means I can finally show you what the combo looks like. So we open with all combo. We actually don't need that many cards, we just need one of the Onomat spells and that will be the entire combo, but I guess it's nice that we have more ways to extend. We will just normal summon our sister, special summon the card, and my Gaga sister has another effect. Let's use it to make our rank 6, make Beatrice, send the glove to our graveyard. And a side note, if you want to play around Forbidden Chalice or Forbidden Droplet, you can use Beatrice to send your trap during your own turn, so your Beatrice will not be negated. But if you want to play around DD Crow, you will want to send during your opponent's turn, so when your opponent uses DD Crow to banish your trap, you can just chain your trap in response to still banish it anyway. So depending on what cards your opponent has, or what cards you know your opponent is playing, you can decide to whether to send your trap during your own turn or your opponent's turn. So that's a neat little thing that you can consider. You can still make Utopia Ray. This deck is just really good even without the trap. So with just 3 cards in your hand, Gaga Sister, Gaga Code, and Onomat, you can basically make 3 negates on field. Actually 2 negates and one monster removal. We just banish the trap, and yeah, our opponent can't really do anything with all of the monsters not being level 8. And this is the final game of the best of 3, and we're going second, unfortunately. That means we can't really cheese the win using the little gnome trap anymore. Tyler's going to just do normal Tachyon stuff. I mean, this deck is just really good in general. This deck is definitely tier 1 material. It's cheap, it's all gas, it can play through Disruption, it's good going first, it's good going second. It's like consistent as hell because you can always reveal any monster to grab any other monster. It's just a really good deck in general. He's going to grab the rank up magic. That probably means he already has the counter trap in hand, which is not a very good thing to know. But yeah, he's going to make his rank 8s. It's always the same thing over and over again. It's always a Tachyon plus Felgrand. Actually, he doesn't even have Felgrand. He just uses Tachyon and passes turn. Okay, let's see what we can do. So we're going to use pick up to grab Para to grab the 2 things. I deliberately saved the second Para, so even if he tries to negate the first Para, I can actually activate the second Para, even though it's only once per turn, because it's an activate once per turn. So if he negates the activation, I can still make the second one. So that's a neat little thing you can do. We're going to use the skill to grab ourselves the rank up magic. I'm really afraid of his back row, so we will try to commit, not commit too hard. And once we make Utopia Leo Ray, we basically already win the game if he doesn't have any disruption in his back row. Because, well, he could negate my monster, but actually he couldn't, because there's a line of text randomly in the first effect of Utopia Ray that specifically says this effect's activation and effect cannot be negated. I actually didn't know about this. I was as confused as he was when my monster's effect, you know, resolves. So apparently it just cannot be negated. So yeah, we both just didn't read this line of text, and that, like, the neat thing about simulators like Duel Links is that even if you don't read, the game still does the thing for you. So let's make Giant Hand and just attack for game. And yeah, that's the game. GG. So it's very funny. Okay, so let me show you the game that I actually lost to. That's the game that lost me the tournament, and it's against Tachyon, of all things, and I'm also going first, so let's see what our opponent can actually do even under the gnome trap, because the gnome trap, even though it's really good, it's not automatically game winning. Your opponent still has a chance to actually fight back if they open really well. So let's see what our opponent could theoretically do under the lock that would still win him the game. We're going to do the usual combo, and side note, this is actually game 3. I successfully pulled off the gnome lock on game 2, and that he just didn't have an out to the gnome lock in the previous game, so I just won that game automatically. And in game 1, I just went second and didn't have an out to a sport, so it's currently 1-1. And this is the third game. We went first. We can basically do the exact same combo that I did in the last game against Luke Tyler. Going first, we're going to make 3 Xyz monsters, including 2 monster negates and 1 Beatrice that could send either the gnome trap or Fafa. We're going to send the gnome trap, immediately banish it. Our opponent is going to set some monsters and set some back throw and pass turn. And yeah, gnome successfully stops their turn, but we still have to attack their monsters to actually win the game. And he has a copy of IDP, which stops us from winning the game. And this shows one of the problems with this strategy is that if you can't win the turn after you use the trap, they can still play the game. I mean, this deck is really good at recovering because of the graveyard effects of Seyfert and the Nebula Dragon. And the skill is not once per duel, it's once per turn. So if you can't win during the next turn, they can still combo off during the next turn. So yeah, they're going to still combo under 2 negates. This deck is just crazy. And since we detached a warrior monster, we didn't have a warrior monster back then. That's why he didn't banish the Utopia Ray with the first IDP. But once we detach one of the warriors that is attached to Giant Hand, now we have a warrior engraved that he can use a second IDP on and banish our Utopia Ray. So yeah, our opponent can still prevent himself from losing by just having a lot of back row, and that's what could actually counter this deck. But to be fair, a lot of Tachyon decks are not playing a lot of back row. They're playing like 2 or 3 back row at maximum. So they're going to have to draw really well. And they keep in mind, they can't even use trade-in because their monsters are not level 8. So they need to hard open with all of their back row to actually win the game. And in this case, they do. So I guess we lose. Our opponent will still be able to make all of the rank 8s. And I guess they just opened really well. And yeah, it's just going to make the rank 8s rank up into full armor, pop-up stuff, just clear onto our board. They won't even make the rank 9. They're just going to attack. And yeah, that's going to be game. And yeah, that's how I have lost a tournament to Tachyon, of all things. But yeah, I hope this basically shows you a way to counter probably the best deck in the entire game right now. And actually, not only do automats have a way to make this card. As I mentioned, the Burning Abyss could make this card because any 2 BAs could make Dante, and then Dante plus any BA in hand makes Beatrice. And even though you can't use Beatrice effect during your own turn, you can always use it in your opponent's turn to send the trap. Another deck that could actually make this card pretty easily is actually Constellas. Constellas is a deck that I know a lot of people have because before the new Tachyon stuff, Constellas is the most played deck in ranked according to the analytics. And actually the way you make Beatrice in Constellas is actually you can use this little spell card. This one, called Constellar Twinkle. This card actually increases the level of your Constellar monsters by 1 or 2, and you can also banish a Constellar monster to grab it back to your hand, so you can use it twice during the same turn. And this is the card that you are supposed to use to manipulate your monster's levels if you don't use the skill, because, you know, people in the TCG don't use skills, so they have to have a way to make their Xyz monsters with all of their wonky levels, because, you know, there's a level 5, and there's a level 4, and there's a level 3. They need to have a way to actually make their levels consistent, so that's the card they use, but you can always use it on any of your 2 monsters to make them both level 6, just by doing your 1-card Concealer combo. So instead of grabbing your other spells using the super rare, this card, instead of grabbing other Concealer spell traps, you can always grab the level increasing spell, this one, and increase the monsters of both of your monsters on your field to level 6, and then you can make Beatrice, and then Beatrice can send Gnome during your opponent's turn, or during your own turn actually. You can do it either way, depending on what your opponent has in their deck. But yeah, that's basically it. Thanks for watching, goodbye.